Hello, I'm Captain Ed Dempsey with the Choo Choo Senior Squadron, and I'd like to go over the urban direction finding qualifications. The objectives are to describe the SQTR requirements, discuss the equipment needed for UDF, describe basic urban direction finding, describe the electronics receiver and its operation, be able to pass a test on UDF. These are all the tasks that are required. There is an I-cut requirement now that's not listed on this page. So a lot of the communication stuff will be covered already in I-cut, so we're going to briefly go over that. Your individual equipment is designed to keep you functional in the field and to help you do your job. Urban direction finding teams are not expected to go off-road or stay overnight in the field, but they do need to have certain tools available to do their job in an appropriate manner. Here is a list. The ones in T are required for trainees. Everything else is required for advanced UDF qualified people. A lot of these are stuff you would have on your person anyway. I have a quick video we're going to see right here for a squadron from California. It does a really good job of showing this.
I'm now going to have one of our senior cadets, Cadet Second Lieutenant Yules, come up. Cadet Second Lieutenant Yules has been on a few actual UDF and also ground team missions. So with him today, he's going to bring his UDF equipment. And Cadet Lieutenant Yules, if you can come up. Cadet Lieutenant Yules is going to show you all of the items in his UDF pack and go through the importance of each item. Lieutenant Yules, thank you, sir. So as you can see, I'm going to do this a little bit out of order, but as you can see, my orange reflective vest is something that I carry all of my equipment in. So I can be out on a mission and easily access everything while still being comfortable inside a vehicle. So the first thing on the list, I have my complete uniform. It's under the reflective vest. The uniform is always important because you want to be in the appropriate uniform for the type of weather that you're in, as well as the mission and activity you're doing. On me, I also have a notepad and pen. I prefer using one of the Defying Mother Nature notepads. It's a Write in the Rain notepad. I can write on this any day, anywhere, whether it's wet or dry, and I won't lose my notes. I also carry two pens with me, just in case either I lose one or one of the other team members doesn't have them. Next, I have my CAP identification, and I carry all of that in an armband so that it's easily accessible and it's viewable by anyone. Along with that, I also have my watch. I wear this watch with me all the time so that I'm used to wearing it and so that I keep track of it at the same time. As far as handkerchiefs or tissues go, I carry a cut-up piece of an old t-shirt. They are soft and they work really good as a handkerchief. And for someone like myself wearing glasses, it gives me something that I can clean my glasses with very easily. As I said, I'm wearing the orange reflective vest. I don't carry a comb or brush. I don't typically use one when I'm out in the field. I've got the ground and UDF task guide here with me. This is always important to have, especially when you're new and you're having to go through all these tasks with a set or a skills evaluator to get those signed off. I also carry this task guide on my cell phone so that I can readily search for certain tasks without having to look through the whole task guide. I carry a headlamp. I find that headlamps are very useful, especially on these missions, typically if you're using a headlamp, it's at night and you're probably taking notes. This headlamp has the regular white feature as well as the red feature, and I don't know if it will show up in the video, but the red feature gives me the ability to use it at night without losing my night vision. Along with that, I also carry a compass. The compass can be used as your protractor and as your straight edge ruler. So the compass is definitely a multi-purpose item, and it will come in handy when you're plotting something on a map at any time. This is also one of the things that I definitely recommend carrying with you if you're going on a long road trip, along with a few other items, just so that you are ready in case something happens. As far as change for phone calls go, I carry my cell phone on me. I also carry a portable battery pack that I keep on the charger just in case we do need to go, and that's something that I can unplug, stick in my pack, and go really quick. And then if my cell phone does die, I can plug it in and charge it back up while we're out in the field. Map case. I carry a large Ziploc bag. It actually states in the task guide that a large Ziploc bag will do. The map case gives you the ability to easily write on your map without permanently marking it. Along with that, it also says that you need to carry alcohol pens, at least 2 colors, and they can't be the same color as your alternate color on your flashlight. If you've got the same color as your flashlight for your alcohol pen, then it's going to become invisible when you turn on your red or your green light. That's why I carry a black and a green alcohol pen. I also have a way to erase the alcohol pen, and that will easily take that off so that I can start with a blank slate if needed. One meal or personal funds to purchase a meal while prosecuting the mission, if appropriate. I carry my wallet on me. Back up to the cap identification, I carry 2 CAP IDs, just so that in the case that I do forget one or I misplace one while I'm on the mission, I still have one with me. I do also carry a little bit of cash on me inside the vest, but most of what I carry is here in the wallet. Along with that, I've added a few things to my pack that aren't required, but I find are helpful. One of which that I always carry with me are my playing cards. These come in handy especially when you get stuck at a mission base, because typically you get stuck there for many hours and you can get bored really easily. I definitely recommend these. You can buy them for $1 at the dollar store. I also carry another flashlight. It's just one of the small mag lights with a clip on it, so I can easily clip it to the vest, inside my pocket, and it gives me a second flashlight, but it also gives me just a small one that I can use as needed instead of pulling out my headlamp if it's not very urgent. Along with that, I also carry a chem light and a whistle. The whistle I keep attached to the vest for ground team purposes, but in the case that you do get lost or you are using a search line, having a whistle is definitely important. The chem light is also a light that will help you keep your night vision for longer. It's green, so I can really easily break this and I can use it inside of the vehicle or outside for long periods of time, up to 8 hours I believe, and it acts as another flashlight without running down the battery on my headlamp or my mag light. Along with that, I also carry my personal EF Johnson 51 squadron has the tools to give that to you. Along with that, I carry a set of gloves, just in the case that I may need them, and flagging tape. Both of these things can be used on UDF missions and ground team missions. If it's cold outside, I can throw the gloves on and my hands aren't as cold throughout the mission. Or if we are having to tie down an aircraft, or if we do end up going deeper than we typically do, I have those with me just in the case of. Also, I always recommend carrying your Leatherman, Swiss Army knife, something along those lines with you. Having that multi-tool is always helpful. It's come in handy more times than I can count, so I definitely recommend carrying it. Aside from that, that's my pack. That's what I carry with me whenever I'm doing UDF and ground team for that matter. As a matter of fact, I can take this vest and I put my survival kit in the back of it, and I have the portion of the ground team pack that stays on me at all times, and then I have an additional backpack that goes on with that. Cadet Lieutenant Eels, thank you for sharing that with us. We hope that this has been beneficial for you, and we look forward to seeing you on future missions and SARXs. If you have any questions, make sure that you contact your squadron emergency services officer. Currently for Squadron 121 in Bakersfield, that would be me for the emergency services training officer. But for your squadron, whoever that is, find out who that is, get involved with emergency services, and not only are you serving your community, but you're also getting an opportunity to learn some neat things, get some great training, and have a good time with all of your fellow squadron members. Thank you.
Guess I shouldn't have shut him up so quick. Anyway, they did a really good job, and hopefully this video will help you in getting your qualifications. Also, here is a quick reference on the page here. You can go back and review this as many times as you need to. Next on the task guides were the phone alert task, P-0102. A little bit outdated with the technology we have today. Most people use things like Discord or Band, but we've stopped using that because of it being foreign country owned. We are now using an application called Signal. It's really a pretty good application, but for the task purposes, this is how you do a phone alert. The phone alert quickly notifies all members of the team that a mission is in progress, gives them information they need to prepare for the mission and move the team to a meeting place, and informs the team leader of who will be attending the mission. Your squadron shall have an alert roster which graphically designates who calls who in the event of an alert. Your squadron should have some method for feedback. When you cannot reach someone you are supposed to call, you must take responsibility for calling all the personnel that person was supposed to call. This is a graphic presentation of a phone list, phone alert. You'll have your team leader at the top, and he'll probably call 2 people, or it could be more. Mostly the times we'll split them up into 2 or 3 different columns, and the people under that column will call one person, and that person calls the next one. So CFO Brown will call 2 people, and everybody else in his column will call 1. Unless they couldn't reach someone, then they'll call the people below them. Clear as mud. That's the end of P0102. Next, basic communication procedures. And all of this should have been, or most of it should have been covered in iCut. We'll briefly go over it here. Demonstrate the proper method to contact another station. Demonstrate knowledge of call signs. Demonstrate knowledge of pro words. Demonstrate the ability to operate basic radio equipment, and demonstrate knowledge of prohibited practices. The basic pro words, all this is covered in CAP Regulation 100-3. Affirmative, after all before, assume control, break, close down, correct, correction. One of my pet peeves is don't say repeat. That was an old military command for fire again. If you need somebody to repeat something, just say the words, I say again, or please say again. Don't use over and out, Roger and Wilco. Those all have their own meanings. Use wait for a longer period of time. Standby is a short period of time that you're going to be looking for information or have to get hold of someone. Wilco is will comply. Word after, word before, you're explaining something in a formal message more than likely. L-002, perform radio operating procedures. Demonstrate setting the volume and squelch levels for proper function. And if you've got eye cut, you have to do this. Your microphone techniques, you hold your microphone at least one hand length away from your mouth. Could be more, could be a little less, but that's the standard. Demonstrate listening before transmitting. Properly call and acknowledge aircraft. Our Tennessee wing, we use the aircraft call signs as CAP 41 and the last two digits of the tail number. So if it's November 602 Charlie Papa, the radio call sign would be CAP 4102. Then send change of grid assignments, use proper phonetics and pro words. Correctly interpret urgency signals and take appropriate action. Update mission communication status boards. And L-003, employ appropriate radio frequency repeaters. Ground and search rescue teams use a number of UHF and FM radios to communicate with mission base and other ground teams and aircraft. The frequency assignments are usually given by the communications unit leader based on the following. Simplex frequencies are short-range communications where units are operating on the same transmit and receive frequency. Duplex frequency for longer-range communications are accomplished through the use of a repeater. All repeaters are accessed by transmitting a sub-audible tone through the radio. The 100.0 Hz tone will activate any CAP repeater, but is used only for emergencies and to request the proper tone frequency for repeater in use. Other tones are programmed into the radio as required. The communications unit leader will brief teams on what frequencies and tones to use to access local repeaters. For Tennessee Wing, this pretty much is a need to know for the users. Our communications people have pretty much taken care of the tones. All you need to know is what channel you're going to be transmitting on. VHF and AM band radios. These are dedicated frequencies authorized for training and actual missions that can be accessed by any aircraft. National HF frequencies. These are frequencies coordinated by national headquarters. Some teams may be deployed with HF radios on these frequencies during disaster to serve as relay points out of affected areas. Region HF frequencies. These are frequencies established for high-frequency operations within a region. Teams may also be deployed and operate on these frequencies to transmit greater distances than traditional VHF and FM assets used by ground teams. Other frequencies are used to communicate with police, Coast Guard, and other search and rescue agencies. Again, the communications unit leader will brief on the use of these frequencies. The ELTs and EPIRBs have dedicated frequencies for emergencies. 121.5 and its harmonics are 243 MHz are the primary frequencies for these transmitters. The 243 is typically used by the military, but civilian transmitters can be heard on these frequencies because of the law of harmonics and radio waves. A radio transmitting at a set frequency can also be heard on the higher harmonics or doubling of this frequency. This does not work in reverse, though there may be some bleed over when the receiver is close to the transmitter. Additionally, 406 transmitters are considered to be the next generation ELTs, transmitting location, tail number, and other basic information about the aircraft. The dedicated frequency for practice beacons within the United States is 121.775 megahertz as of January 31st, 1998, and it continues today. This is the communications plan that Tennessee Wing originated many years ago. I think it's been some changes to it, but this is the only one I can find. Basically, our call signs 01 through 59 were for wing level call signs. The commander has call sign Rocky Top 01. Deputy commander has Rocky Top 02. Call signs 60 through 99 were for high frequency call signs. Each high frequency radio has its own call sign. The group Rocky Top 100 through 199 were for group 1 stations. 200 through 299 for group 2, 300 through 399 for group 3, and then the 400s for group 4. 500 through 599 were for mission tactical call signs. Typically, a mission will have Rocky Top 500 as a mission base, and Rocky Top 501 could be a ground team, could be the instant commander. He wants a direct radio. 502, 503, all the way up to 510 would be for a mission. If we have two missions going at the same time, then Rocky Top 510 would probably be for mission number 2, that is continuing simultaneously. 600 through 620 were for repeaters. We're still using 01 through 59 for our repeaters that I know of, but this was the plan. Also, there's some of the other wing and group call signs, like a group commander will have call sign 201. His vice commander will have Rocky Top 202. The communications officer is Rocky Top 204. Chaplain will be 205. The safety officer is Rocky Top 207. And that's the end of that. Inspect a vehicle. Most of us won't be having a CAP vehicle to transport into these, but in case you do, be familiar or get familiar with the CAP form, the CAP form 073, and the CAP form F109. These are the basic checklist. If you've been driving the car for any period of time, you know to check the oil levels, the tires, coolant levels, belts and hoses. Look for leaks. Make sure the vehicle's clean inside and out. Check for damage. This is important. You don't want to be driving a vehicle for a whole day, and when you go to hand it over to someone else, they say, "Hey, how did this dent get there?" And you say, "I didn't know because I didn't check it." Be sure to check your vehicle before you take possession of it, and check it when you turn it back in. And some things to check after you start it. And complete your mission paperwork before you leave in your mission base. Make sure it's readable. Make sure this is signed by the approving officer, normally the ground branch director or his designee. Alright, that's the end of P0101. After you take the quiz, we're going to have some hands-on training. Hopefully get you checked off and be qualified as a UDF. Alright, O-0201, use of a compass. This is, hopefully we'll get a lot of hands-on with this in our practical. But this one is a lensatic compass. We basically use two types, the lensatic and the orienteering. A lot of components. The graduated straight edge can be used on your map. The string wiring using for sight, use that lens on the right side to sight through your wire. You can look at something on the ground, and you can also tilt it down and you look at your bearing on the needles. This is the basic orienteering compass. It does have a straight edge and a ruler. One thing about this one, these are clear. You can lay them on a map and you can see the map and your compass headings. Here's a little quick video.
Everybody's Giant Survivor. We're going to talk about two ways that you can take an azimuth off your lens at a compass. The first one is the, I forget what they call it, but you hold it up to your face, like this. Put your thumb through the loop, like that, and run your finger along the side. Hold your lens down a little bit, and then look to the sighting wire, which is a little wire right in there. And what you do is you look down and you find your black index line. And so I'm going to set it for 40 degrees. So what I'm doing is I look through here, I look down, and I can see 40 degrees on my red lens, my red index. And I look through, and using this right here, a little notch in the back, I sight through the sighting wire. So I'm looking down, I've got 40 degrees right there. And then without moving, I just turn my eye up a little bit. That way I can double check that I still 40. I look okay. I see a tree over there. So now what I'm going to do is walk to that tree. So this is 40 degrees magnetic. Remember we talked about the difference between magnetic and grid azimuth. So this is 40 degrees magnetic. So that's the first method that you can use. I'll put the actual name of it, like the cheek or the idol or something like that. The next method I think is called the center hold. Same idea. You hold your thumb like this through the compass. Only this time you're holding both of it like this. Make sure there's no metal in your pockets or anything that's going to throw you off. And what you do is you look down from the top. So I'm looking down, I can see 40 degrees. So what I do is I just hold my head up, straight up. So I'm going to look up. Then I look up and I say, okay, I see the same tree at 40 degrees. Now I'm going to walk to that tree. And that is the second way that you use. Is that a compass? So the first is holding it up to your cheek. And then like this. And the second way is the center hold method. Like this.
And he was right, it's the compass to cheek technique. And the other one is the center hold. I want to say one thing here, guys. Don't be looking down at your compass and walking. That's a good way to stumble and fall on something. Get your bearings, then look to where you're going, and then head that way looking as you go. If you need to stop and take a check on the bearing again, that could be a good thing. But don't look at your compass while you're walking. And a good point here is that the compasses work magnetically, and if there's metal close by, high tension power lines, 55 meters, can affect a compass. Vehicles can affect it within 10 meters, and telephone poles and metal fences can also affect it, and things in your pocket. One note, with today's technology, most cell phones come with compass capability. I don't remember if this app came with my phone or if I installed it, but I use a Galaxy telephone and it has this app on it, and it's very good. You might have to move it in a figure eight motion several times to orient them for periodically to make sure it is oriented with the magnets of the earth. But this is a sample of my phone, and you can get a bearing from it and your phone possibly. O-205, locate a point on a map using the cap grid system. Hopefully by now you're very familiar with the cap grid system. Each chart has a series of grids on them, starting with the top left corner of your chart. It may not be the top left corner of your state, but it'll be wherever your chart begins. Atlanta charts begin just a little bit south of the Tennessee-Kentucky line at the top left, and they go from left to right, and then down, and then left to right again. Then they're broken down into quadrants, A, B, C, and D quadrant. The charts are divided into 30-minute boxes already, and then the CAP breaks those down into 15-minute boxes. Then they can be further broken down into quadrants. Each quadrant is 7.5 minutes, not degrees, minutes. This is an example of a St. Louis. They're telling it it's 39 degrees north and 40 degrees at the top of the, it says 39.45 and then 40 north. And the western coordinates are 89.52 and 89.45. Sorry, not point, but 89 degrees 45 minutes. And for westerly, we're reading them from right to left on the westerly. I was watching a video, and I hadn't thought about it, but if you're east of the meridian line, Greenwich, England, you'll be going from left to right when you're reading the coordinates off the grid. So anyway, the important thing is that the quadrants are broken down into 7.5 minute squares. This is a example of the Atlanta sectional zoomed in, of course. And if you'll notice, the Chattanooga airport is between Atlanta 95 and Atlanta 96, Atlanta 123 and Atlanta 124. But we can break it down into actual location. So locate the Mark Antop and Cleveland airports. And did you say Atlanta 69 Alpha and Atlanta 97 Bravo? Let's go back. 69 Alpha is Mark Anton, and 97 Bravo, where you see the point is the red is pointing to the airport. Okay. Now, jumping into O-2014, plot an azimuth on a map. They're saying for UDF we need to use a protractor. Normally pilots and observers and scanners, we use a plotter, which has the 360 degrees marked on there. But since a compass only has 0 to 180, I'm sorry, most of your protractors have 0 to 180, we have to treat them a little bit differently. Now, of course, when you're going from a map to a compass, you have to know which azimuth you're going to shoot. You're going shooting. If you're using a compass, you're going to get a magnetic azimuth. If you're using the chart, you're going to get a grid reading. And there's a way to convert that. We'll talk about it in just a minute. You place a protractor on the point with the 0 degree mark oriented to north. Place a pencil mark at the degree mark on the protractor corresponding to the azimuth you want to go. With a straight edge, draw a line from the first point through the mark you just made. And I'm going to attempt to do this with paper in a PowerPoint form. Alright, I've got my zero headed north. Sliding it over the map. And we're going to go to the Duck 10 airport and put the 0 at the north. Alright. And place a dot on the origin at 65 degrees. I have a 65-degree knot there, believe it or not. There's a little dot, it's on the map. Let's look at 65. And there's a little black dot. Then I drew a line from the Duck 10 airport through that dot, and there is my bearing. Now, if you're going westerly, protractors don't normally have anything but 0 to 180. So then we need to subtract the 180 to get the western direction on the protractor. So if we're going to go 280 degrees, that'll be 100 degrees on the protractor. So I've made my red mark at 100, and then drew a line from that airport, which is Andrews Airport, through 100, and there is my bearing on the plotter, plotting it. Oh, 2018. Locate your own position on the map using terrain. Excuse me. When orienting a map with a compass, remember that the compass measures magnetic azimuth or directions. Since the magnetic arrow points north, pay special attention to the declination diagram. If you are planning on traveling for any serious distance, you will need to take into account the declination. Alright. They show several different kind of maps that might have your variations on your magnetic and your grid. And on the right hand side, this is how pilots normally see the declination mark. If you look along the lines of the compass north-south reading, on the right hand side you'll see a 5W. That means our declination is 5 degrees to the west in this area. So if we're going from a compass to a grid north, we would have to add 5 degrees. If we're going from a grid north to a compass, we would subtract 5 degrees to get our map oriented. See the 5 degrees W there? That's how I annotated on the chart. Now here's a little video of someone finding their location.
Resection is a method to locate something unknown from one or more known places. Either calculating the grid location of an object in the distance or finding your own location. These techniques will provide essential during land navigation. Performing resection is not hard as long as you focus and take your time. There are two methods of resection: map and compass, and straight edge. Both techniques allow you to locate a point that you do not know the coordinates of. steps for each well-defined point. The point where your lines cross is your current location. Determine the grid coordinates to this location to the desired accuracy. For the straight edge resection method, orient your map on a flat surface. Locate at least two known distant locations or prominent features. Plot these locations or features on the map. Draw a resection line for each of the plotted points by laying a straight edge on one of the two known points on the map. Then rotate the straight edge on the map until the straight edge lines up with the known position on the map and the known position in the distance. Draw a line along the straight edge of the known position towards your position. Repeat this straight edge line for each known point. Where these lines intersect is your position. Determine the grid coordinates to this location to the desired accuracy. Remember to remain calm when using resection. Slowing down and taking your time will result in more accurate calculations and allow you to resume your land navigation exercise in a timely and efficient fashion.
Okay. One thing to point out here, the straight edge method is really akin to a receiver trying to coordinate a triangulate a signal to get two readings with your bearings, your direction finder, and where those points cross is where your transmitter is going to be, where your ELT probably will be. Alright, moving from point to point. This is once you've got your team organized and you're ready to start moving out. The first thing you're going to do is determine the route you will take. That's important. Determine the route you will take. Choose checkpoints along the way. These should be easily recognized features along your route, such as bridges or roads, intersections. Every point where you turn should be a checkpoint. Measure the distance between each checkpoint and write it down. Move to the point safely and obey all the laws. Very important. Don't try to navigate while you drive. Let someone else drive so you can concentrate on the map, or vice versa. Use the odometer to measure the distance between points. That way you'll know when your checkpoints are coming up or if you've passed them by accident. Rely on the terrain associated whenever possible. In other words, if you're in totally flat country and you on your map that you're supposed to go was a lot of hills, then you're probably not going in the right direction. If you must use a compass, get out of the vehicle and move at least 10 yards away from it. This keeps the metal in the vehicle from affecting the compass. Don't speed, stop abruptly, block traffic, or break any traffic laws. Make sure you park clear of the road when stopping and be careful when exiting the vehicle when traffic is driving by. O-301. Determine stress beacon bearing. Majority of CAP search missions are electronic searches for distress beacons. Correct use of the directional finding equipment is critical to these searches. The first step in locating distress beacons is to determine the general direction of the location of the distress beacon. Sorry, I didn't write this, guys. To determine the bearing to a distress beacon, you assemble the LH16 on the antenna mast assembly and hold vertical in front of you such that you can see the receiver controls. That's important. You hold it vertically so you can see the controls. Turn the unit on, turn the volume and sensitivity up full, set the mode to direction find, DF, set the frequency knob to the appropriate frequency. For practice, it's going to be 121.775. For real mission, it's going to be 121.5 or 243 megahertz. Listen for the signal. If you have no signal, move to some other location where you do. Once you have the signal, swing the antenna slowly through a full circle around you and determine where the needle centers. If it centers more than twice, analyze your location to determine if you might be dealing with more than one signal, reflections or interference from power lines, etc. Remember, all directions where the needle centers, or mark them, write them down. Now, it's an important point because metal buildings, and a lot of times we'll be at an airport with lots of metal hangers, they can bounce the signals off. So you might get multiple readings. Once you got a signal, you switch to receiving mode and determine where the signal strength is greatest. The needle deflected farthest to the right, the signal direction is off of the left antenna mast. The strongest signal direction should be in one of the same directions that the needle centered in the direction finding mode. So they should pretty much match. Switch back to direction find mode and locate where the needle centers in the direction where the receive mode receives the maximum signal. That's important, guys. The receive mode is measuring the strength of the signal. The DF mode is measuring the direction of the mode. While one person keeps the unit aligned on the signal, another stands behind him and takes a compass bearing. See task O-0201, use a compass. As you get closer to the signal, decrease the sensitivity to avoid overloading the receiver. Once the team has moved close to the stress beacon using the direction find technique, the technique that may become less effective, that one may be less effective. You know you are close when the signal is loud, even with the sensitivity turned down. At this point, signal strength techniques may be used easily. There are two techniques: normal signal strength and body blocking. These techniques can be used with the direction find equipment or any portable radio or scanner that can pick up the distress beacon signal. And one means we can get that close. On a handheld scanner, we can unscrew the antenna and then use body blocking to block that signal and get you a direction. One point here, guys, the body blocking, that if you're at an airport, I found it very useful to use building blocking. You can pick up a signal and you walk by a building and it gets stronger. Where that point gets stronger is probably going to be in line with the edge of that building. I called it building blocking. It works really good. Deactivating a signal. There's a lot of legal things that come into play when you're trying to deactivate signals. You can't go into somebody's aircraft without their permission. Most of them are non-distress. Of course, if it's a distress problem, we're not going to be concerned too much with turning it off. We're going to be concerned with saving lives. ELT, emergency locator transmitters, are normally fixed to the aircraft and are activated by gravity switch. EPIRBs, positioning indicator with a minimum battery life of 48 hours, and these are usually on boats, watercraft. The personal locator beacon has a minimum battery life of 24 hours. Excuse me. Some examples.
Emergency locator transmitters, usually two of them on aircraft, and their primary purpose is to send out special signals in case of an incident. This is an Airbus 321, and what you're looking at there is the portable ELT. In case of an incident, the crew can grab this and activate it. It has a deployable antenna. It can also activate if it touches any kind of water. The other ELT is dedicated to the aircraft itself and is fixed in the aft galley right there up above. Even though they both put out the same signals, but they function a bit differently. The dedicated ELT actually works off of G-forces in all directions. It has two antennas, a
G-forces, it will send out three signals. 121.5 megahertz for civil, 243 megahertz for military, and 406 megahertz. This is using satellites, SARSAT. Both ELTs are capable of this. They also have internal batteries to keep them powered. If you've been watching the news, recently a Korean A330 ran off the runway. Most likely it suffered massive G-forces, and I'm pretty sure that fixed ELT did send out the signal. When it comes to maintenance, we are tasked with making sure these systems are operational. We have to test these systems at interval periods to make sure they are active and working. But word to the wise to my maintenance personnel and my pilots. Be careful, do not leave it out for too long. Unless you want to see these guys. Trust me, they will come really quick. And it has happened in the past when it's accidentally activated. But that's about it, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed it. The more you know. Take care. Transmitters are found on airplanes, on boats, and even hikers sometimes carry them. They're very crucial to our aviation safety and allow us to find an aircraft in the unlikely event that the aircraft goes down. ELTs work very simply. They have a G meter, and once that G meter is activated in an airplane, it sends off a frequency on 121.5 and now the new modern ELTs on 406 as well. 406 and 121.5, what am I talking about here? Well, one is just transmitting on what we normally pick up in our aviation radios in our aircraft, or also what search and rescue use to actually fine-tune and find the aircraft. And 406 actually is a signal that goes to our satellites. Back in the day, we used to have 121.5 satellites circling the Earth, and they would pinpoint where these ELTs are. We don't have those anymore, so we're now relying on pilots to monitor 121.5 in order to determine if an aircraft is down, unless you have a 406 ELT. A 406 ELT transmits the information, or a specific ID, hex ID I believe it's called, to the Air Force Search and Rescue Coordination Center, and with that little ID they can determine who owns that ELT and what does it belong to. Most cases, if you have an airplane and it goes off accidentally, you're going to get a call from the Air Force Search and Rescue Center looking to make sure that you're fine and that the aircraft is on the ground. It's very important when the aircraft comes out of maintenance to verify that the ELT is in the arm position. Not having that ELT in the arm position is not going to activate by itself in the event of an accident. And you always want to have that ready. Another thing pilots should always do is monitor 121.5, because for those pilots that don't have the new technology on their aircraft, they're relying on you and air traffic control to pick up that 121.5 frequency and relay that information to search and rescue. Anyways, if you have any questions about ELT, please leave them in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
recognize it and therefore report it as appropriate. So the first thing we need to do before we test is verify that it is the top of the hour within the first 5 minutes, so we are able to test our ELT the first 5 minutes after the hour. In this case, with the 172, what we'll first do is we'll tune in the appropriate frequency, so we're going to tune in guard channel 121.5 and activate that. We'll also turn on the speaker so we can hear the sound go off, so we'll turn on the speaker there, turn off the enunciator. And then what we're going to do next is come over here to the ELT switch, and we're going to go from arm to on. And we should hear it turn on at that point. So we hear that, and of course you can see the RX on 112.5. As soon as we verify that, we're going to come back here and just turn it back to arm. And that's it. So that's how we test the ELT. You can hear that's the siren sound you would hear, of course, if you did turn it on. So that's what you're looking for. If you ever hear that on especially guard channel or really any frequency that it could bleed over to, you'll want to report that to the appropriate facility, either air traffic control, even flight service would be suitable as well.
One important point there, now he didn't really stress it, but if you're flying and you hear the ELT on 121.5 and you see the transmit button on a G1000 machine, it's your ELT that's going off. And sometimes just turning it to deactivate mode may not turn it off. You may have to land and actually physically turn it off. Alright, once you found a beacon, and if applied in distress situations, okay, immediately report defined to mission base. That's important. Once you find it, immediately report it. Attempt to locate the aircraft owner or boat owner in order to gain access to the distress beacon. If the owner is unavailable, contact the FBO or harbor master or local law enforcement officials to permit access to the aircraft or the boat. Locate and deactivate the distress beacon, monitoring 121.5 to ensure the signal ceases. If possible, disconnect the battery. Distress beacons are normally located in the tail section of small planes. Large commercial planes sometimes have a small access door on the fuselage to access an on-off switch to the distress beacon. Always make sure the signal has stopped. You might have the wrong distress beacon. Leave a distress beacon deactivation sticker so that the owner knows that his distress beacon has been deactivated if he's not present when it's silenced. If you do not have a sticker, leave a note where the pilot will find it. Immediately inform the incident commander and pass on the following information. This is important, guys. Manufacturer's make, model, and serial number of the distress beacon, the battery type and expiration date, the time of deactivation, the aircraft or boat ID, any other pertinent information, like if your maintenance man was there and he's the one that turned it off. Alright, moving on. O-304, triangulate a distress beacon signal. The key point here, get a reading from two different directions. Drive around if you have to. At each site where you take a reading, plot the point on the map where you took the reading, determine the azimuth to the distress beacon, plot the azimuth on the map, make sure to convert from magnetic to grid, and remember to report each reading to mission base. Include your location, the bearing to the distress beacon, and the signal. Extend the line you draw for each azimuth until you cross. Until they cross. When they cross is where the signal's going to be at. You better see what they're talking about on the next slide. Alright, on the left he got one bearing, on the right he's got two bearings. And where they cross is going to be where they're at. Alright, moving on. O-0420. Perform an airfield search ramp check. Following steps: contact the owner, the FBO, or the fixed base operator. This individual will permit you to access the control airfields and will also be helpful in obtaining any records. If no FBO is present, you may proceed to search the airfield within the limits of safety and trespassing laws. Brief your people. Make sure all the team members know what the missing aircraft looks like, what the tail number is. Remind them of possible search clues. Conduct a search. Check for records. Conduct interviews. Somebody might have reported the ELT going off. Check for them. Somebody saw an airplane leave. If you're doing or they saw it getting fuel, they talked to somebody that was going to a certain place. Check the flight line. Have a person walk down the line and make sure the plane's not still sitting there. Yeah, if you're on a controlled airfield, there's certain places you cannot go to. You'll probably have to have the FBO or security help you go to those locations on Class C type airports or Class B airports. If the search results are negative, leave the mission-based phone number and a contact name, normally the incident commander, with the FBO. Request that he continue asking about missing aircraft to people who come into the airport. Any information that develops can then be forwarded directly to the mission base. Do not leave the airfield until you receive permission from mission base. Important. This is the little helper that we use. It's old, but it still works really well. A 2-element direction antenna that mounted on a folding frame, 2 folding dipoles, and switching network mounted on a wooden crossbar, primarily for handheld ground direction finding. It's the antenna, and it's mounted. The receiver's mounted on the pole. Keep the elements folded except when taking bearings. Open to operating position. Move to high clear area of at least 20 feet from vehicles, wires, or objects. Others stand at least 10 feet from the operator, unless you're behind him taking the bearing. Okay, this is important. In the receive mode, the antenna on your left is going to be pointing to the strongest signal. I'm not sure why it says the reading to the right is your strongest signal. Oh, they're talking about the right of the dial. Your actual dial. When the dial goes to the right, that's your strongest signal. But the antenna is going to be pointing, the left antenna is going to be pointing to that signal. Reducing the sensitivity will decrease the needle swing without loss of accuracy. I guess horizontally it could be on a hill. Oh well. Okay, in the direction finding mode, DF mode, see the direction of the arrow? You're going to be facing it between the two antennas. And your needle on your dial should be centered left to right, centering be pointing to the signal. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully it'll be a quiz you can take, and then we'll see you at the practical soon. Thank you very much. This is Captain Ed Dempsey signing off.